Yashodanandana Braja Janarandana Yashodanandana Braja Janarandana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajaka Ashtota Dasata Sri Srimad, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajaka Ashtota Dasata Sri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki. Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki. Jai Srimad Bhagavatam Ki. Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 4, Text 12. Wait, it's still off the TV. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Asaditaha, Te, Mat, Anugrahaha, Yat, Yat, Mam, Nilokan, Rahaha, Utsrajantam, Dishtya, Dadrishvan, Vishada Anuvritya, Sa Esha Sadho Charamo Bhavanam, Sa Esha Sadho Charamo Bhavanam, Asaditaste Madhunak Anugraho Yat, Asaditaste Madanugraho Yat, Yanmam Nirlokan Raha Utsrijantam, Yanmam Nirlokan Raha Utsrijantam, Dishtya Dadrishvan Vishadanuvritya, Dishtya Dadrishvan Vishadanuvritya, Sa Esha Sadho Charamo Bhavanam, Asaditaste Madanugraho Yat, Yanmam Nirlokan Raha Utsrijantam, Dishtya Dadrishvan Vishadanuvritya, Sa Esha Sadho Charamo Bhavanam, Asaditaste Madanugraho Yat, Yanmam Nirlokan Raha Utsrijantam, Dishtya Dadrishvan Vishadanuvritya, Dishtya Dadrishvan Vishadanuvritya, Sa Esha Sadho Charamo Bhavanam, Asaditaste Madanugraho Yat, Yanmam Nirlokan Raha Utsrijantam, Dishtya Dadrishvan Vishadanuvritya. Anyone else want to try it? Sa Esha Sadho Charamo Bhavanam, Asaditaste Madanugraho Yat, Yanmam Nilokan Raha Utsrijantam, Dishtya Dadrishvan Vishadanuvritya. Mataris. Sa Esha Sadho Charamo Bhavanam, Asaditaste Madanugraho Yat, Yanmam nirlokam raha utsrajantam. Dishtya dadrishvam vishadhanuvritya. Sa isha sadho charamo bhavanam. Asaritaste madanugraho yat. Mamlukam sujantam. Sa isha sadho charamo bhavanam. Yanmam nirlokam raha utsujantam. Dishtya dadrishvan vishadhanuvritya. Saha, that. Eshaha, of those. Sadho, O honest one. Chadamaha, the ultimate. Bhavanam, of all your incarnations. As Vasu. Asaditaha, now achieved. Te, unto you. Mat, my. Anugrahaha, mercy. Yat, as it is. Yat, because. Mam, me. Nirlokan, the planets of the conditioned souls. Rahaha, in seclusion. Utsrajantam, while quitting. Dishtya, by seeing. Dadrishvan, what you have seen. Vishadhanuvritya, by unflinching devotion. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada Ki Jai. O honest one, your present life is the last and the supermost, because in this term of life you have been awarded my ultimate favor. Now you can go to my transcendental abode, Vaikuntha, by leaving this universe of conditioned living entities. Your visit to me in this lonely place, because of your pure and unflinching devotional service, is a great boon for you. Purport. When a person is fully conversant with the knowledge of the Lord as far as can be known by a perfect living entity in the liberated state, he is allowed to enter into the spiritual sky, where the Vaikuntha planets exist. The Lord was sitting in a lonely place, just about to disappear from the vision of the inhabitants of this universe, and Uddhava was fortunate to see him even at that time, and thus received the Lord's permission to enter Vaikuntha. The Lord is everywhere at all times, and his appearance and disappearance are merely the experience of the inhabitants of a particular universe. He is just like the sun. The sun does not appear or disappear in the sky. It is only in the experience of men that in the morning the sun rises and in the evening the sun sets. The Lord is simultaneously both in Vaikuntha and everywhere within and without Vaikuntha. Om Ajnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Mano Pishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutaf Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagajatam Sahagana Raganatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namoste Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishubhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vanchakalpa Trubhyas Chakapasandubhye Vichapatitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivikasa Swaminiti Namine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashchate Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Yasya Devi Parabhaktir Yata Tevi Tatagaro Tasya Te Katita Hirata Prakashante Mahatmanaha. Sa Esha Sadho Charamo Bhavanam Asadi Taste Madanugraho Yat Yanmam Nirlokan Raha Utsrajantam Dishtya Dadrishvan Vishadhanuvritya. O honest one, your present life is the last and supermost, because in this term of life you have been awarded my ultimate favor. Now you can go to my transcendental abode, Vaikuntha, by leaving this universe of conditioned living entities. Your visit to me in this lonely place, because of your pure and unflinching devotional service, is a great boon for you. So here we have this conversation between Lord Krishna and Uddhava, and Uddhava is visiting Krishna right as Krishna is winding up his pastimes. And we see here he's visiting him in this lonely place right before, again, Krishna is going to leave the planet. And just as is explained in the purport here, it's just like if the sun sets, it's not that the sun stops existing, but simply becomes unmanifest to this material world. So similarly, Krishna was leaving this planet after winding up his pastimes, and we've been hearing about this very gruesome scene where the entire Yadu dynasty was wiped out. They all got intoxicated and killed each other, essentially. And this is all orchestrated by Krishna. We can understand that. And so it's a very brutal scene and very sad, you could say as well. And so Uddhava is here, and he is getting a very, very amazing benediction in this verse here, that this will be his last life in the material world, and he'll go back to Vaikuntha. Ultimately, we understand that Uddhava is a Nitya Siddha, he's eternally liberated. He's not a conditioned soul that had to live a bunch of lives and then get this benediction to go back to Godhead or anything like that. But this is showing an example for us that this can be our last life, and eventually we will reach our last life in the material world and go back to the spiritual world at some point, and might as well make it this life, just finish it all up in this life. So a little bit more of the backstory is that Krishna had told Uddhava to go to this Bhadrak ashram, which is a very remote place. I believe it's like in some mountains, and it's very difficult to get to. It's actually very dangerous. I was hearing about it. There's these back in this time and in previous times before vehicles and all these things. It was a very dangerous route. It took a long time to get there. If you go there and it becomes winter while you're there, you're kind of stuck there. You can't leave because of the snow and things like that. And there's wild animals that will come, and like tigers and bears and such. So it's a very dangerous place to go. And essentially, Krishna was telling Uddhava to take sannyas, and this was kind of his order to him. And I found that interesting because if you compare it to, Krishna spoke this Uddhava Gita to Uddhava, and then he also spoke the Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna, and it's very similar teachings. The Uddhava Gita, as far as I understand, I haven't gone through it yet, but it goes into more detail than the Bhagavad Gita a little bit on certain aspects. But the essential message is the same, that surrender to me and become my servant, become my devotee, and this is how you perfect your life. But the difference was that Krishna told Uddhava, take sannyas, you should renounce. And he told Arjuna, don't take sannyas. Arjuna was saying, I want to take sannyas, I want to go live in the forest and renounce everything. And Krishna said, no, you need to follow your duty, follow your varnashram duties, be a kshatriya, fight in this battle. And he told Uddhava, who was a householder and had household duties, you should renounce, you should go leave and go to this Bhadrak ashram far away. And so Uddhava was on his way, and then he heard that Krishna was there at this Prabhaskshetra, is that how you pronounce it? Yeah, he was there, so he actually disobeyed the order of Krishna to go. Krishna said you should just go there, go to Bhadrak ashram, and he disobeyed and he took a detour and he went to go see Krishna one last time because he knew that this was the end of his manifest pastimes on this earth. And so generally it's very much advised against to disobey the orders of the spiritual master or disobey the orders of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But we can see here that it's a pure devotee, not just any pure devotee. This is Uddhava, who is explained as the dearmost to Krishna. Krishna has told him that, he asked him one time, do you know who's most dear to me? And Uddhava was thinking the gopis, because he had gone to Vrindavan and seen the the love that the gopis had for Krishna, and he realized that they were so exalted. He even said, I realized that what I want in my next life is just to be born as a blade of grass in Vrindavan, or even just right outside of Vrindavan, so that sometimes the gopis will come step on me. So this is how he held the gopis' love for Krishna in such high regard. But Krishna said, it's not Lord Brahma, it's not Lord Shiva, it's not any of these other devotees in Dwarka. Actually, you're the most dear to me out of anyone. And so we understand that this is the topmost devotees on the topmost platform. And so he disobeyed the order of Krishna and went to go see him against Krishna's will, you could say. And here in this verse, Krishna is saying that your visit to me in this lonely place, because of your pure and unflinching devotional service, is a great boon for you. So, again, Uddhava was told to go somewhere else, and he went here and saw Krishna. But we understand that this is something that can't be imitated, right? So we can't imitate and say, oh, well, the spiritual master told me to go to this place and do this thing, but actually I really want to see him. I want to just go see him. And this is my love for him. But we're not on that level to where we can imitate this pastime and say, no, you see, it's actually because of my love for you that I came to see you. There is this, this actually kind of happened a little bit here. I think it was like a year ago, right? That some devotees were, our Guru Maharaj was here in Atlanta for some time, and then he went to New Jersey, I think, before he left for India. And some of our devotees were out near the area, I think in like Washington D.C., distributing books, and they wanted to go see Maharaj, and it's out of like pure sentiment that they wanted to see Maharaj, before he left for India. They wanted to get one last darshan and hear another, class by him, and so they made the plan to do that, and then Maharaj got wind of it and said, no, just stay and distribute books. It's better if you do that. And so we can understand that, and then they stayed and distributed books. So this is proper. This is, abiding by the orders of the spiritual master. Otherwise, if we disobey the orders of the spiritual master, we're committing aparad, nam aparad, and an offense to the holy name, and we won't be able to chant purely. But anyways, I just thought that was pretty interesting that he's disobeying that, and Krishna is still giving him this amazing boon, because it's in a transcendental level, and it's not that he's angering Krishna by disobeying in that way. So yeah, Krishna said that, Uddhava, you're most dear to me. He's also said elsewhere that the gopis are most dear. And then also in the Bhagavad Gita, 1869, you can pull that up. He says that, who does he say is most dear in that? Anybody? Right, exactly. One who preaches. 69. Nachatasman manusheshu kaschin me priya kritamaha bhavita nachame tasmad anya priya taro bhuvi. There's no servant in this world more dear to me than he, nor will there ever be one more dear. And then if you go to the one previous down, yeah. And I declare that he who studies this, no, the one before. Yeah, for one who explains this supreme secret to the devotees, pure devotional service is guaranteed, and the end who will come back to me. And then he says, there's no one more dear to me. So he's saying that the gopis are most dear to me, saying Uddhava is most dear to me, saying that the one who's preaching the secret, who's explaining this to other devotees is most dear. So it's kind of inconceivable. They're all true at the same time. It's not that one is ranked like this, but they are all most dear. Krishna holds them all in very high regard. So, and it's not that, the point is not that we can come to that level or anything like that. If we go out and we preach, that we can be suddenly on the level of Uddhava or the level of the gopis or something like that. But we can understand through Bhagavad Gita and through Krishna's instructions that becoming dear to him is the topmost goal in life, and the way to become most dear to him is that we go and preach this message. So, we're all busily engaged in that mission, and some of us are more in a supporting role, and some of us are out there, the foot soldiers on the ground, doing the hard work of speaking to people and distributing books and all these things. And we saw some really amazing book distribution yesterday by all these awesome devotees. It's like really ecstatic to see. Maha Saturday. But we see that this is actually very rare. This unmotivated, uninterrupted devotional service, that becoming completely purified, and like this, like he's saying, because of your pure and unflinching devotional service, that's what's giving him this boon to go back to Vaikuntha, is that he's displaying this anyabilashita shunyam, this unmotivated, uninterrupted devotional service. And this is the goal that we have as aspiring devotees, to attain this platform of unmotivated, uninterrupted devotional service. But so many of us can come into devotional service with some motivation, some underlying desires, and everyone comes in, with material desires to some level. But it's a matter of becoming purified to the point where we have no more material desires left at all, and our only desire is to have no desire other than the desire of the Lord and the desire of the spiritual master. And we could see that it's actually very rare. Manushyanam Sahasreshu, this verse 7:3, I believe, that out of many thousands among men, only one may attain perfection, and out of those thousands, only one will come to me. So it's a very rare thing to see, and we see this as we, specifically in my service that I'm doing, that I'm speaking to young people, trying to explain Krishna consciousness to them, help them understand these things. And many of them have even read Bhagavad Gita or read some of Prabhupada's books, and maybe chanting, maybe somewhat familiar with devotional service, or they've just read different spiritual books. They're seeking, they're looking for answers in life. They're not content with material life. But even among these people that are, you could say, prime candidates for becoming devotees, it's actually extremely rare for even those people to actually take it up seriously and to surrender somewhat to the process, to actually accept an authority, accept something as authoritative, and accept, okay, Bhagavad Gita there's an authority to it, and I'm going to follow what it says. There's, people that just we have this blind faith, and then there's so many people nowadays that have blind doubt. We go to the college, we see this, there's this guy, this scientist guy, Michael, right? And he's just like a word jugglery master, and he really he's so skeptical about all these things, and he has a lot of faith in his science. And I talk to people all the time. I was talking to some boy in Canada, and he's taking it up. He's chanting. He's saying, okay, like I see that this is beneficial. He's reading, but then he's just so doubtful of things, like that, like he's like, how do you know that like the Vedas are like eternal, that they've come down like since time immemorial, and all these things? All of his different doubts kind of just clouded him so much that he just couldn't get past that. He couldn't accept. He couldn't take anything on faith, basically. But we understand, and Vishnu Chitta Prabhu has been talking about this in recent classes, and other devotees, that everything is based on faith. Everything in this world, we have to take some level of faith to even do anything. We have to have faith that, again, that the air isn't poison. There's no poison gas in the air. We have to have faith that our vehicle won't explode when we go drive it down the road. We have to have faith that the roof won't cave in on a building that we walk into. And we have all this implicitly. We might not explicitly think, okay, I have faith in the architect of this building and the contractors who built it. But it's there, and we're completely operating on so many different levels of faith, many of which are actually a little bit unreasonable. Like, the chances of getting in a very bad car accident are actually pretty high. But almost nobody thinks that when they get in the car, oh, I might get in a car accident. Nobody thinks that, but relatively speaking, it's a pretty high chance. So everything is based on some level of faith, and it's a very rare soul that takes that little bit of faith and actually surrenders to this process of Krishna consciousness and develops a taste in which their faith is then strengthened, and then they're actually able to proceed in Krishna consciousness with a higher level of faith. And they're not just constantly on the mental platform wobbling of, is this the right thing to do? Oh my gosh, I don't know. Like, I'm not feeling so much ecstasy and this and that, and I don't know how long I can do this. And people get on this mental trip of it's very difficult and this and that, but it's not actually so crazy. It's not so difficult. It might be very different from our material lives, but we can understand too that material life is impossible. Devotional life is difficult, but material life is completely impossible, and there's no gain to be had in it. So we might get to the level of understanding that and saying, okay, this material life is useless. I can't do that. I can't go back to that. But we don't have a proper faith. We're not completely fixed up in Krishna consciousness to the point where we're determined to continue on. And so we're on this weird, like, gray area where we're just stuck in the middle. We can't go back and we can't go forward. So, it's really about understanding the philosophy, hearing from devotees, associating with devotees, reading these books. And through that, we can actually come to the proper knowledge, come to the proper understanding, and develop our intelligence. It says here in the very first line of the purport that it's not that, I found this interesting because usually we hear that if you think of Krishna at the time of death, then you go back to Godhead, that if you serve Krishna in your life, then he'll come and he'll come into your mind at the time of death and take you back and these things. And that is there. Prabhupada said that as well. But he's saying something a little different here. When a person is fully conversant with knowledge of the Lord as far as can be known by a perfect living entity in the liberated state, he is allowed to enter into the spiritual sky where the Vaikuntha planets exist. So when a person is fully conversant with knowledge of the Lord as far as can be known by a perfect living entity, that sounds like quite difficult. Like, fully conversant with knowledge of the Lord by a perfect living, so you have to be a perfect living entity and then be fully conversant with knowledge. It's not that just, Sahajas might think, you can just, chant and just like feel the bhav and just, feel the ecstasy of Krishna consciousness and do whatever you want, and just think you're a gopi. No, it's saying you have to be fully conversant with knowledge. So we have to really, really double down on studying these books, understanding these things, learning shlokas, learning the philosophy, hearing from our spiritual master, hearing from Prabhupada, understanding everything we can about this. And for me, I'm very dull-headed, so, it can be very difficult, actually. I struggle a lot just trying to, read these. Sometimes reading the books, I'm like, oh my God, what is it saying? And it feels so dense and complicated, but we have to have faith, we have to continue on, and we have to understand this verse, Yasya Devi Para Bhaktir Yata Tevi Tatakaro, Tasyate Katitahirata Prakashante Mahatmanha. Back to this idea of faith, that one who has faith in the devotion, in the spiritual master and in Krishna, they can, all these purports, all the imports of the Vedic scriptures are automatically revealed. It's not that they have to do anything else. And so that's definitely far off for me, personally, that having that level of faith. But the promise is there that all of the imports will become automatically revealed, that's really amazing. So then there you go. If you just have pure faith in the spiritual master and in Krishna, you'll have this knowledge of the Lord as far as can be known by a perfect living entity. You'll get that. Automatically, it says, automatically these things will be revealed in your heart. Because ultimately Krishna is there in the heart and he's ready to reveal that knowledge, and he can do it whenever he wants, but he's just waiting for us to be ready for it and us to be fully surrendered in that way. There's this other verse, what is this? What is the number? Ye yatamam prapadyante tam satayva jamyam. Did anybody know the number? Anyways, it's, we don't have to pull it up, but it's, 411. Okay, yeah, you can put that. Yeah, so it's, as all surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. Everyone follows my path in all respects, O son of Pritha. So, as we surrender more to Krishna, he's going to reward us accordingly. And we see here, again, Uddhava, he's completely surrendered. He's fully surrendered, and he's getting the ultimate reward. It says right here, you've been awarded my ultimate favor. That this is his last life in the material world. He's going back to Vaikuntha, the transcendental abode. He's leaving this universe of conditioned living entities. This is the ultimate aim, the ultimate benediction, the ultimate boon that any conditioned living entity can get. And as we surrender more and more to Krishna, he's going to reward us more and more and more. We see, the example of Dhruva Maharaj, that he had a very big material desire. He wanted to be the emperor, the ruler over the entire universe, not even the entire universe. He wanted to have a kingdom larger than Lord Brahma, his grandfather's. And this is a very large desire, you could say. I've had some big material desires, I think in this life at least, but I've never thought of trying to be the Lord of more than the universe. But he had this desire. He went to the forest. He performed all these austerities. And finally, when he received darshan of the Lord, he was performing very severe austerities, and he was just a young boy at the time. And finally, the Lord came and saw him because he was, partly it was because the universe was like shaking, or like it seemed like the destruction was about to happen because of the power of his austerities. And the demigods came and pleaded to Vishnu to come, do something. And Vishnu was also pleased with his austerities. So he came and saw him, and instantly upon seeing the Lord, Dhruva Maharaj realized, I've made such a big mistake. I'm such a fool. This is what he prayed, that I had this desire, and I wanted to be the Lord of this world and have my own whatever kingdom. And I realized this is all just nonsense. This is complete, useless. This is like stool. It's just completely useless. And seeing you, I'm completely satisfied. I just want to see you and serve you. And then the Lord, out of his mercy, he knew that, of course, Dhruva Maharaj had been purified of that desire, but he still let him have that. He still fulfilled that desire for him, to have that kingdom. So we see that the more we surrender to Krishna, the more he rewards us. And then here, again, in this case, Uddhava is getting this ultimate reward of leaving this material world completely, and being out of the clutches of, again, he's not a conditioned soul. He's not in the clutches of birth, death, old age, and disease like us, but this is all an illustration for us to see the result of this unflinching devotional service, pure and unflinching devotional service, that we can get this benediction. And yeah, I'm just thinking that, of course we know that we should have this unmotivated, uninterrupted devotional service. We should have that, but sometimes it can be difficult, and we have material desires, and it can be very silly material desires too, sometimes you hear oh wow, okay, Prabhupada said that most of his disciples would become demigods, right? And then it's okay, cool, they're demigods, and then you hear that they're enjoying so much more than you can enjoy here. And then so sometimes you can think that wouldn't be so bad, right? I could just go do that, enjoy so much more, and you're still a devotee, you can still worship Krishna, that's kind of cool, right? But this is something that needs to be purified from us, because again, we can't come to this topmost platform. We can't actually fully please Krishna unless we get to this pure and unflinching devotional service platform. I'm running out of time. I'm supposed to end at 8:30, but let's see. I wanted to cover some other stuff. This other point that's made in the purport here is that the Lord is everywhere at all times, and his appearance and disappearance are merely the experience of the inhabitants of a particular universe. He is just like the sun. The sun does not appear or disappear in the sky. It is only in the experience of men that in the morning the sun rises and in the evening the sun sets. The Lord is simultaneously both in Vaikuntha and everywhere within and without Vaikuntha. So this is another thing that really kind of I can't wrap my mind around it, and it's really kind of awe-inspiring, you could say, and very, very a beautiful aspect, I think, of Krishna consciousness, a very beautiful feature of Krishna, that he's omnipresent, he's always everywhere. And it's said in Bhagavad Gita, Maya tatamidam sarvam jagadavyaktamurtina matstani sarvabhutani nachaham teshvavastitaha, 9:4, that he is both, he is, everything is within him, but he is not within everything. And the purport of that is that his impersonal, his external energy is pervading everything. His energies are pervading everything in an impersonal way. But it's also said in Brahma Samhita, this is text 535, you can pull that up. It's really mind-blowing. You can just go to the English because I'm low on time. He is an undifferentiated entity as there is no distinction between potency and the possessor thereof. In his work of creation of millions of worlds, his potency remains inseparable. All the universes exist in him, and he is present. Can you scroll? I can't see. And he is present in his fullness in every one of the atoms that are scattered throughout the universe at one and the same time. Such is the primeval Lord whom I adore. That's so amazing. I mean, he's present in his fullness in all of the atoms of the universe. So he's saying that he's personally present there in all the atoms. So how many atoms are there in this room? How many, so if you just kind of think about that, it's like really just, it can blow your mind completely, So he's, hold on. Okay, he's saying I can keep going. Yeah, so it's like really, just really far out stuff, He's impersonally present in everything, but he's also personally present in everything. And so he's pervading everything. And there's other Maya Yakshina Prakriti Suyate Sataracharam at 9:10. He's saying that everything is pervaded by my impersonal energy, this Maya. And so it's just really like mind-blowing. We also see that this Rasoham Apsakonteya, that he is the taste of water, he's the fragrance of the earth. He is, there's this whole sequence in the light of the sun and the moon. There's this whole sequence in the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita where Krishna breaks down, I am this, I am this, I am this, I am this. And he's everything. He is in everything, and his impersonal energy is pervading everything. And ultimately, we are, his marginal potency. So we are a energy of Krishna, the living entity. And then material energy is his external potency. This is also an energy of his. And just as the sun and the sunlight are non-different ultimately, everything is related to Krishna ultimately. And the pure devotee sees it in that way. The pure devotee sees that nothing is separate from Krishna. This is also one of the Chatur Shloki verses. Rite ritam yat pratiyeta, na pratiyeta chatmani, tad vidyarat vano mayam, yata baso yata tamaha. If you see anything not in relation to me, know that to be illusion. So anything that we see that we don't see in relation to Krishna is Maya. This is illusion. And ultimately, that Maya is also Krishna's energy. So we're seeing Maya, and we don't even realize that we're seeing an energy of Krishna. So it's really, really, something to meditate upon and mull over and try to understand, even though it's very, very difficult to understand such things. Try to really imbibe an understanding that Krishna is completely omnipresent. He's everywhere. He's within our hearts. Sarvasya chaham hridisani vishto mantatsmitir ganam apohanam cha. He's giving remembrance and forgetfulness and knowledge. He's within every atom. All of his energies are completely around us. The modes of material nature are his energy. So everything you can actually relate everything back to Krishna, and you can see everything in relation to Krishna, and it can be very enlightening and something to kind of meditate upon. That no matter what situation you're in, no matter what you're doing, you can always figure out some way to relate that to Krishna. Even you could say that what is like I don't know about this one, but you drive by a liquor store and it's like, okay, well, that can make you think of, okay, I'm following the 4 regulative principles so that I don't, that I'm able to, develop my Krishna consciousness, so I don't go to that place. But also you could think maybe of this pastime of the yadus taking the getting drunk, and they all end up wiping each other out. You can see that and think of that. So even something so mundane as that, and so sinful as that, you could think of some relation to Krishna in that way. Let's see. I had some other stuff. Yeah, another thing I was meditating upon with this verse, kind of changing topics a little here, is that Uddhava is here with Krishna at the end of his manifest pastimes before he goes back to his abode. And just thinking of the emotion of such a moment, right? Like for any associate of Krishna, being in his presence, taking darshan of Krishna is a very beautiful thing and very ecstatic. But we see that this mood of separation is like the most potent, the most powerful. This is what leads to actually the highest ecstasy. And the feeling of when someone is about to leave this earth, all of us actually have experienced it in some way or the other, whether it's with family or friends or such. Having someone that that's going to leave, that maybe they're sick or whatever. And I was actually thinking about this because it was about a year ago almost, that Krishna Prabhu, went back to Godhead, and he was in that nursing home. We all went there and got to take darshan of him. And it was a very emotional moment, at least for me. I don't know about you, but, it was a very moving thing to see that this person dedicated their life to Prabhupada. He was a huge book distributor, very nice devotee, and he was going out even to the very end. Like they said that right before he got hospitalized or just to where he couldn't even go out and do anything anymore, the last thing he was going to go do was go on Harinam, go on Sankirtan. And so to the very end, he was still dedicated in that way. And to see the reciprocation that Krishna and Srila Prabhupada give to such a devotee is very moving. And we see it a lot, actually. We see, like Parvad Muni Prabhu, he got a lot of mercy, He was also, did so much service. Very humble devotee, very sweet, humble devotee, always laughing, smiling. And he, got through the mouth of our spiritual master, he got the instruction to go to Mayapur because Maharaj could see that this person was about to leave this world. It's amazing, that when you're that, elevated, you can see these kinds of things. And so he went to Mayapur and he got completely cared for by the devotees there. He arrived, and from what I've heard, that he arrived and someone that, I'm not sure with names and stuff like that, but some devotee that was higher up in Mayapur, some devotee leader there said, "Welcome to Mayapur, you can stay here forever, we'll take care of you." And so they gave him a place to stay, they gave him nice, he had nursing and everything like that. They fed him, cared for him, and there was a video of right before he left that he was sipping on a smoothie or something, and you could hear a kirtan, he was chanting, and it seemed very ecstatic. And then he left, hearing the holy name. And then, the same with Chardeshna Prabhu, he gave his whole life, and then we go there and we see that, there's many other devotees there. They're chanting 24/7 with him. He's got, what did he have? He had Prabhupada, what? He had a photo of Prabhupada, or? Yeah.
There's different things. There's a
Pavitra, yeah.
Java bag.
Picture of Prabhupada on the wall, right where he could see it. And then, there was a phone playing kirtan right next to him. Yeah, so you see that Krishna takes care of his devotees. When they give it all, Lord Chaitanya pays them in full. So we don't have to have any worry about that. And just this idea of that emotion that's there when someone's about to leave. And even though, I had never even met Chardeshna Prabhu, but I still was moved to tears, just being there, because it's a very it's just, it's an amazing moment because they're going back to Godhead, but it's an emotional thing because you're not going to get their association anymore, So just thinking about that in terms of this, that, Uddhava, it must have been a very intense emotional moment, that Krishna's leaving this planet and I'm here, and then Krishna's giving me this boon that I'm going to go back to Vaikuntha and be able to be with him after this life. So it's so many things are happening there that's a very, relishable thing, and it's a very emotional thing. So it just intensifies the whole feeling. So that's kind of all I wanted to cover. If there's any comments, questions, or corrections, please feel free to ask. Anybody? Oh, cool. Keep it.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. I think this thing is dying, but anyways. I have two questions, just on faith. So, my first question is just like in preaching and spreading Krishna consciousness, how much do we like emphasize faith and like, yeah, if you can say.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of something I've been running into, right?
Yeah.
Specifically with this one person. He wasn't able to accept certain things on faith. And I mean, for me, the way I think we should approach it is like, the way that worked for me at least, is that like, you take the process of chanting, and you take the process of association with devotees, taking prasad, and these are all things that you don't need much faith to do. Like, you don't require so much faith just to chant. I mean, it takes a little bit, right? But to accept like certain things, like how, Brahma was the first living entity, and then all these things happen, and, there's Garbhodakshai Vishnu, and all these like things that are not perceivable to us, that are kind of outside the scope of our senses. That's kind of like harder to like just immediately take on faith. But if we focus at least, I mean, this is what we're doing at the college. Like, we focus on teaching them practical things about life. Like, okay, like the material world, it's like actually there's no point in endeavoring for material gains, and they can logically understand that. They can philosophically accept that. And then, okay, so spiritual life. Okay, so understand that you are the soul, you're not the body. And then that's another thing that you can kind of like, it doesn't take so much faith. It's more like logical steps. Like, okay, this body is like used to be younger and now it's older, and it's, so it's like there's more logic involved. And then as you practice, as you chant and become a little bit more purified, then some of these things become more understandable to you. And when you have to have some level of faith to even be able to understand these things, right? Like this Yasya Devi Prabhakti verse, that when you have faith, then you're able to understand these things. You can't just understand it from like an intellectual level. So there has to be like some level of faith at the beginning, and then usually that faith is in devotees. Like, you see like this devotee is, a nice person, they're intelligent, and they have my best interest in mind, and when they see that, then they can have faith in devotees, and then from there they develop more faith in Krishna and Shastra and these kinds of things. That if you just have just straight to like that without association of devotees, then it can be difficult to develop faith in those things, because your mind just starts going crazy. Yeah. Is that okay? Do you have any insights on that?
Just I'm asking.
Yeah, I don't know, but
But just the second question, and so it kind of ties in with this one. So anyways, maybe I could send it to you. You might find it interesting. I forget the name of the class, actually. It's Truth and Something. It's a class that Bhakti Vikash Maharaj gave in Salem some years ago, about 10 years ago. So anyways, that class, he was talking about just like preaching Krishna consciousness and spreading it, and that pretty much like it's going to be more than just like doing Harinam and doing like a couple like dramas here and there. He was saying that like combating like atheism and like explaining Krishna consciousness and like all those different things. And he just making some interesting points that just got me thinking about faith. But one point he was making in the class was just that in like defeating like scientism and like logic and stuff like that, like if you like defeat something, like because he was explaining that there was like one person, like one Muslim, that like he like defeats Hinduism and this and that, and he like whatever, and by like him like defeating Hinduism and like debunking it or whatever, then from that he said that like therefore like Islam is like like the topmost. And so Guru Maharaj was making the point that like That's not like how logic works, that just because you like defeat one thing, that doesn't mean that the other thing is automatically established.
Right.
So the kind of where I'm getting to is that like with like, we see with like Jiva Goswami, I haven't studied his Sandarbhas, but from what I've read, like Brihad Bhagavatamrita, for instance, and also specifically was this Laghu Bhagavatamrita, like that kind of like establishes like systematically that, okay, like Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, like step by step. And so that's written in such a way that like people, they kind of already have faith in the Vedas, and it's not really so much of a question like that, but it's established like systematically. So I'm kind of like wondering, is there like a point in which we can like systematically explain like Gaudiya Vaishnava philosophy or Siddhanta to like the general public, and then does it like, where's kind of like that point where it's like faith is needed?
Where's the point where faith?
Yeah, because these great acharyas, they were able to like do that, like Jiva Goswami, and like establish like this, like Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead through all these different things and like that, and then come to that conclusion on the basis of Shastra. But I just think as the push on Prabhupada's movement, kind of we have to like establish the same thing, but in a different way, because people, they don't accept, like in the Western world, they don't accept like the Vedas and all these different things. But that's kind of why I asked like that first question.
Yeah, I mean, we see what Prabhupada did when he came. He didn't introduce yoga or like some kind of like, thing just to get them in. He said, Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He straight up told them. And he explained it, in a way that they could understand. But Prabhupada's books are not so like, I mean, they give the full understanding, right? Like they explain it as well. I haven't read these other ones that you're talking about, the Jiva Goswami books, but I mean, Prabhupada's books go into great detail to explain and help people understand that. And also, again, it comes down to like the program that Prabhupada gave, that live in the association of devotees, be around devotees, and they'll help you understand that. Have prasad, have harinam, have sankirtan, have, temple programs, morning program, all these. This whole entire package, this whole entire lifestyle is given in order for us to kind of understand these things. But just taking someone off the street and trying to convince them might be kind of difficult to like, just like take someone that's like an atheist and then like immediately like convert them from atheism to like believing Krishna is God. But we see, I mean, there's this one person that we heard recently that he's a karmi. I don't know if he's like Christian background or what, but he's a karmi, and he read Bhagavad Gita, and then he said that I accept that Krishna is God. Like after reading that, he accepted that. He read Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita, and he came to that conclusion from doing that. So I think it's possible just by reading Prabhupada's books that people can understand that and develop some level of faith, at least, because Prabhupada is able to, again, he does that where he explains it. He helps people understand in a logical way and come to that conclusion through logic. And it's not that just like necessarily like the Bible or something where it's like you just have to believe this. Like, and it's intelligent people that, like this person I'm talking about, he's like an intelligent, like, like thoughtful person. He's not just like blindly following that. And he didn't necessarily become a devotee from it, but he accepted that, okay, like Krishna, it seems like Krishna is God, like from my understanding from that. So we can see the Prabhupada's books have that potency as well. Okay, anything else? Yes.
Hare Krishna. I like this point you were making about the Uddhava Gita and the Bhagavad Gita, how Krishna gives different directives to Uddhava and Arjuna. Although the instructions are the same, he gives them different instructions. And this is a comment that, when people go through the Vedas, like in the Uddhava Gita, Uddhava even says that he's a little disturbed because Krishna, he gives like different instructions, and same thing in Bhagavad Gita, for different people according to their psychophysical nature. But people can get bewildered by these things if they don't understand the purpose of the instructions is ultimately to love Krishna. Mm-hmm. So I know I like that point. I never thought about it like that, how, it's the same instruction, but then Krishna gives, different guidance to both of them. So
I heard another anecdote that Prabhupada was in Vrindavan, and he had two of his sannyasi disciples. And he told one of them, you need to go travel, always travel around, preach, always be traveling, never stop traveling. And then he turned to the other one and said, never leave Vrindavan, stay here, run this temple. And then they were like, wait, what? Like, you just told him that he has to travel, like, a real sannyasi travels, like, and he said, no, it's different depending on the circumstance and the person and their nature, and yeah, so it can be the same,
that, like,
different instructions for the same.
Like Krishna consciousness is not like a one shoe fits all, you know. It's like
Right.
everybody has different natures, everybody has different mentalities.
Right.
It's not like, oh, everybody needs to do this, everybody needs to do that. It's like that's what the point of Varnashram Dharma is. Like depending on your certain proclivity, you know, you can still progress towards love of Krishna.
Mm-hmm. I think I heard Mahotsa Prabhu said this one time that like everyone has their unique like relationship with Krishna, but also like they have a unique way to please Krishna. Like a very like everyone has their own individual way that most pleases Krishna. So it's not that everyone just does the same thing. Yeah. You said something. Am I Prabhu?
Yes, this is interesting point that about this to sannyasi. No, this is because logically you can see Guru Maharaj. What is this? Why you told it? And in that moment, Hansadutta Swami was there, and Achitananda Swami was there. This two sannyasi, and few more devotees was there, and they also looked at each other like this. No, what is going on? No, this is completely different. And according to logic, you cannot accept. You can inquire the Guru Maharaj, and your faith became like decrease. Your faith is decreased. Because of that faith, again, you can see this is again and again, this is faith. Because as much as you go further in Krishna consciousness, you can understand Krishna consciousness completely illogical. Completely illogical. You can see Chaitanya Charitamrita. And who can understand the pastimes? Who can understand the pastimes? So you can see so many times they mention this point, they stress this point. Who can understand the pastimes of the pure devotees of Lord Shri Krishna? And you can see who can understand the pastimes of Srila Prabhupada. You cannot, because you should have the faith, the words of Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj and all these scriptures. You should have a faith. Almost is blindly faith, and you can also tell like this is blindly faith, this is blindly faith. Why you don't have this? But we also like this, And if you want to go to like another level of your spiritual understanding, to a new dimension, you should have a faith. Like somebody can tell you, now you're ready? Are you ready to jump in this river? No, I'm not ready. But if you're not ready, this knowledge is not welcome. And it's gradually, when you're more ready, this knowledge is more revealed in your consciousness, and you can understand something more. But faith from the beginning, like little bit is required, but then increase. And how you can understand this is good or not? You see this process is working. You can see this, how much 10 years was like this, 9 years was like this, 5 years was like this, and you can see your consciousness also changed, and the knowledge in your in your life has became more revealed.
Yeah,
I understand.
It's hard to. I mean, for personally, like you might not see so clearly that your consciousness is changing because it's like very gradual, very, very gradual process. But with Parameshwar Prabhu, his legendary book distributor, he comes here maybe like once a year or twice a year, and every time he comes, he like looks at all of the face like, wow, like you made advancement, like he could see, because he comes once a year and he could see like the jump from a year ago, and so that's an interesting point that others can see it, too. So.
Actually, this is also one small story that this is Birbal and Akbar. This is very historical personalities. Maybe you heard about this. This is the King Akbar and his secretary Birbal. Maybe you heard about this? No? Prabhupada mentioned it many times, and his lectures, some stories, because it's like very famous stories in India. And this is Birbal. This was his like served to this is Akbar, this king, and he was very smart, very smart. This, and he can perceive unperceivable things, very easy, and he can give proper advice in 1 second. And this is big story. Maybe we will tell this after. But the point that this is secretary. He every time he remember about his past life, like before this is serving, when he served to king, and he understand the level what now which level now he's situated, and level before, and this was very big difference. Even if you cannot see your gradation like year by year, but you can remember what you what you did before Krishna consciousness, before the society of devotees, before this, when you start chanting Hare Krishna, you can see your mood and that moment, your desires, your association, your behavior. Even you can see this as before and after.
Sure.
Maybe you cannot see the gradation, but at least this is 2 points you can see.
Yeah. Yes, Prabhu. Vamsi Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. So you said about this person called Michael.
What's that?
Some person you told that he was like a student from science background, and Michael, you said something.
Yeah, Michael.
So he didn't have faith in one part of the Vedas. So, I mean to say, like, how far we should go with this person, means if his doubts are not getting cleared, if tomorrow he becomes a devotee also, and still that doubt is lingering in his mind. So, how much effort we should put into, because we see that one Prabhupada disciple, Purushottam, he had so much doubts in Prabhupada's teachings that about the part about the moon landing and all these things. So he left, So just to ask, how long and which way we should go with such a person? Actually.
Yeah. It's kind of a tough decision, right? Because you have this, almost like you have this person's spiritual life in your own hands, because it's like you're responsible. I mean, you've taken up that responsibility by instructing them or by guiding them in some way. So you have to see it's a case-by-case basis, but if someone is like constantly doubting, and they're not accepting at least like a little bit of like, you have to take something on faith, and just, again, I mean, it comes down to, are they willing to at least try the process? Are they willing to chant? Are they willing to associate with devotees? Are they willing to read the books with an open mind? And you have to read the books with somewhat of an open, if you're just reading the books and constantly questioning, this is not the proper mood. It's like going to a guru and just accusing and being very accusatory in your questioning. You have to have some level of submission, some level of, okay, there might be something here that is deeper than what I know, and it might be able to help me. And that's kind of like what I think is the baseline qualification. And otherwise, if they're very combative and just doubting, and they just won't change, then eventually you have to kind of move on. But for me, it's like, as long as, the way we do it is like we advise people now is that we say, okay, you're interested in this practice in spiritual life and Krishna consciousness, here's what you have to do. Just start minimum of like 10 minutes of chanting, 10 minutes of reading, 10 minutes of listening to a lecture every day. 30 minutes of your life every day, just do that, and then send us like, okay, I did this, I did 10 minutes of chanting, 20 minutes of reading. They'll send us a report of what they did that day, right? So then we can see, okay, this person is at least sincerely endeavoring to try to understand this. But then, like, for example, this boy that I was speaking of in Canada, he's been going for like a week. He's been doing that pretty good, consistently. And then now he's saying, oh, I don't know if I'm going to continue doing this because my doubts are too much. So sometimes they just decide, I can't do it, I have too many doubts. And at that point, it's hard to like say like, no, like you shouldn't have doubts, you should, continue on. You can say that, but, we might do that a little bit, but eventually it's like if you're married and like, the wife decides she wants to leave, it's like, you can like try to convince her to stay, but like, she's probably gonna leave, like, and even if she does stay, she won't be like that happy, and like it won't be a happy marriage at that point, because that's how, at least in the West, that's what happens, right? Like people just leave, and so it's kind of like that. It's like trying to convince someone to stay against their will, but they have to be, sincerely wanting to do it. And the other thing I'm realizing is that they have to have an urgency of like, they have to realize the value of human life. They have to realize the consequences of not taking up spiritual life in this life, and what their future would look like in the next life if they don't take up devotional service seriously. So that's kind of a rare thing as well for people to even recognize that. Another thing is he didn't really accept reincarnation at this point, so then it's hard to like convince them that, oh, well, you should take it up because the next life, you'll be stuck in this cycle. So that's another thing is, so many doubts. But okay, anything else from there? Yes, Prabhu.
I was going to say Prabhupada wanted Varnashram Dharma farm communities because the Krishna conscious movement's only really attracting the intelligent class of people to move into the temples. It obviously requires a lot of faith and sacrifice. But the farm communities, especially for people like Michael or whoever you said, the guy in Canada, they can accept the fundamentals or the base level aspects of the philosophy, and as long as they're a little bit sincere to want to get association, they can come do that and practice at their own level. And just by living since Krishna consciousness is a practical philosophy that you can't really get anywhere else, we can actually bring it to life in these farm communities, and in that way they can make gradual advancement. The faith doesn't have to be so strong as living in a temple. So you can, that's like the present need, because we're dealing with a lot of Michaels. And anyways, we don't have enough room for everybody, even if everybody joined like we'd like them to. Not everybody can be in a temple.
Yeah, that's true. Good point. Okay. Yes, Prabhu.
But here is another point that it's more easy for the people to join Hare Krishna if we have some farm communities, but devotees don't have a faith.
Devotees don't have faith, you said?
Yes,
in the farm.
for farm communities. And this is yes, they don't have a faith, and now because this is Guru Ravagya, and this is because you can see level of consciousness. No.
Yeah.
This is another point.
Good point. Okay, I want to give a chance to Matadis. Anything? Yes.
I just wanted to share something that I experienced when I was in Alachua. There was this devotee, senior devotee. He is a Prabhupada disciple. He was actually Bhaktivinoda Swami Maharaj's Sankirtan leader. And the day that he left his body, he came and spoke to me, and he was talking about how he was editing Maharaj's book, The Mood and Mission, of Srila Prabhupada, and how inspired he was, and how that was pretty much the only thing that he wanted to do, was just follow Srila Prabhupada wherever he was going and continue following him for the rest of his life. And that evening, he ended up leaving his body after leaving a program with devotees, and he had such an auspicious passing. So when you were speaking about how having faith in the spiritual master, that knowledge and that potency of wanting to serve Krishna directly and sincerely without motivation can be imparted upon the individual. And I could just see how he lived his life and how he was just really inspired about his spiritual master and how much faith that he had. It was really enlivening to see, and it instilled a lot of faith in me and gratitude that I have such a sincere spiritual master that I'm connected to, which is what his main point was when he was meeting with me, to share that he's really happy that I took shelter of His Holiness Bhaktivinoda Maharaj, because he's very surrendered to Srila Prabhupada too.
Yeah. That's great. Yes, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu, just something quick on that point. When you meet devotees who are completely convinced, some devotees I think most devotees have experienced, at least for me, there were a lot of things that helped convince me, but the thing that convinced me most when I met a devotee who's completely convinced, and he told me Krishna was God, and then you can just feel how much faith they have, so much conviction that you just believe in it. So that if we want to convince others, we have to be convinced ourselves.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
that's really the biggest
That's really
thing.
true. With book distributions like that too, seems to be when you have more faith, more books go out.
Yeah. Like this thing with Suresh, how he distributed that Bhagavatam, it's crazy. But
It's crazy. Okay. That's it. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Panchakalpatarubhyascha
Kalpatarubhyascha
Kripasinubhyascha Ketanam Pavanebhyo.
Then Prabhupada had so much faith, you know, that about the scientist never landed to moon. He told two things you should, you know, bang on the material world. Right? You can't create one jiva without anything. And the second moonlight. So, but then his own disciple, Krishna Prabhu, he accepted Prabhupada. So